Hitman, the only game I can say I own every single version of and every single title of. So I want to talk about it because it's one of my favorite game series, and I recently got the newest one, so just wanted to talk about it. But because I have to make it confusing, I'm only going to talk about them in order that I played them, so let's go. Hitman 2 was a step up from the last game where you didn't have a lot of open movement. This one kind of really started the whole open ground play kind of thing. You were still obviously confined to a smaller area than the later games. It was also the first game to introduce the idea of knocking people out rather than just brutally strangling them or shooting them with a gun. So that really changed how things went in the future. It also introduced Silent Assassin and weapon unlocks through doing different things. Finally, it was the first game to introduce the iconic Silver Baller, which is Hitman's signature weapon from this game on. Hitman Absolution. Many fans consider this a step back after the amazing Blood Money kind of open level things. This one kind of milled down the design, all the levels turned very linear. Of course, there were still some of the bigger ones, but it focused more on story than gameplay than most of the other games did. And it stepped up in graphics, but people still felt they got too limited when playing this game. I personally love it, and no one convinced me this is a bad game. This game introduced a lot of things like throwing items, snipers, assassin, that weird game mode where you're just on a sniper the whole time. It introduced wall hacks, I call them, the ability to see your target from long range, and short range so you know where they are. It was also the first game to introduce the ability to put people in a closet rather than just a box. One of the better additions was also challenges, which gave you XP and made you want to replay the levels more to do as much as possible. Hitman 1, the most janky and also the oldest one in the series. It was pretty fun. Of course, it introduced a lot of things like, the game. It was the first game to have snipers in cases, but that feature was removed after Hitman 2 for whatever reason. It was also the first game to introduce the iconic fiber wire, which means it technically is the oldest tool that Hitman has used, and the only tool Hitman uses consistently throughout the entire game series. It also has the best line that was ever said in this game, or any other games, and I'm surprised it's not a meme yet, so yeah.
I discovered the true power of 47 chromosomes.
Hitman 1 introduced a whole bunch of things to the game series, and it was actually very fun. It made the worlds way more open, way more than Blood Money or Absolution ever did. Maybe some of the levels were still smaller than how big some of the levels got in Hitman 2, but it was still an overall good experience. It added things like escalations, it added the ability to change outfits and bring your own setup, and unlocking new ways to play the game. It also added a 6th level system that the other two games following after would also do, but it also had DLC levels. And it just made the game a lot more free, you added a lot more people, and it was, really fun. Hitman Contracts. I have to say if there was the most divisive game in the series, it'd probably be Contracts, just because it was kind of like an all-star mixed with new levels, but it was only the 3rd game in the series, and it didn't really make sense to why it was like that, but it was still pretty fun. It got rid of the aesthetic bottle from Hitman 2 and replaced it with the syringe, which syringes were then used for the majority of the other games. It added, better graphics, and it redid some of the old levels, but other than that, it didn't really change much, but it was still a fun game. Hitman 2. It wasn't really that different from Hitman, the newer 2016 Hitman game, but it added it re-added the suitcase with the sniper for the first time since Hitman 2. It also added more levels, obviously, with the 6-style system, but it updated the HUD, it updated the graphics, so the game looked much nicer, and it just played more. You had the ability to play the levels in Hitman 1 and Hitman 2, which added replayability to the old game that you didn't think you'd get. Hitman Blood Money. Many people would say this is their favorite game of the series. I would disagree, but it was still a very fun game, and definitely not the worst game. I believe that I'd have to go with the first one just because of how janky it is. But yeah, it was fun. It added coins. It added the ability to hide bodies for the first time, which made just silently dragging people to the side of the corner not as required as it was in the other games. It made the levels way more open and added a bunch of more kind of events, you'd say, to get people to get them to kill themselves or put them in situations where you can kill them easily. And it was very fun. It also was the first one to have like weird levels, like the Christmas level or the weird Easter egg where you shot a coin and a bunch of people came out and clapped at you. So yeah, pretty fun. Hitman 3, of course, being the last game, it hasn't added much I can mention, but it did add the camera, which is built to open and hack with things, which made it a little interesting tidbit. It made a bunch of references to the old games. You went to old locations like China or Berlin. It added a bunch of really fun missions that had like little unique things, like China's full of little data pads you have to hack with your camera. Berlin has a unique targeting system. It continues the 6th level style, and it seems to have ended the story, but I doubt they're done, milking Hitman for as many games as they can make at this point. But it was still fun, and it severely upgraded the graphics, and also it did the same thing Hitman 2 did and allowed you to play the levels from the 2 previous Hitman games. So yeah, it's a fun journey playing Hitman, and I'd recommend all of you guys to play every game on this list. Yes, every one. Do it now.